This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
So I thought I'd make a quick video on this one, give you my thoughts on this whole situation, which is Anthony Joshua, April the 13th. As we know, his top two priorities, Deontay Wilder being number one. Why? Because it's for undisputed for the WBC. It's not about Wilder, it's about the title of being undisputed. Wilder doesn't seem to be interested at all. He's doing what he's always done, which is run away. He's been a bit of a coward. Number two, Tyson Fury. Again, Tyson Fury, he's looking at a rematch with Deontay Wilder, and Frank Warren saying 50-50 or no fight, all this kind of thing. So again, obstacles, because Frank Warren wants to make it look like he's willing to make the fight, but Eddie Hearn isn't. This is the whole thing. But Frank Warren, we know, doesn't particularly want the fight. But anyway, I hope to be wrong on that one. So either way, number one, Deontay Wilder. Number two, Tyson Fury. But if these two fights cannot happen, what options does Anthony Joshua have? Is he supposed to, what, not fight anybody? Even though he can do everything that he can to make Wilder and Fury, even though Wilder has said, remember this, doesn't matter what offer comes in, I'm not fighting him. Okay, so people talk about 50-50 and all this as much as you want. Anthony Joshua should do this. Very easy when it's somebody else's money, I get it. But even then, 50-50. Wilder said he ain't taking anything. Okay, Tyson Fury will have to wait until Joshua and Tyson Fury get into full negotiations. But outside of those two, who is the best possible opponent for Anthony Joshua? Now, for me, for Anthony Joshua, for a lot of people, it's Dillon White. Okay, Dillon White has had a fantastic 2018. Undefeated former world champion Lucas Browne, rate him or not, that's the fact of it. He defeated him by vicious knockout. He then defeated Joseph Parker, knocking him to the canvas twice. Joseph Parker's never been to the canvas in the amateurs or sparring or in the professional game. Dillon White dropped him to the canvas on 2 occasions, beat him on points. Yes, he got hurt and dropped in round number 12 himself, but that's not enough to equate for the previous 11 rounds. So Joseph Parker only lost one fight before to Anthony Joshua. First person to go the distance with Anthony Joshua. Whereas it's fair to say Dillon White defeated Joseph Parker more handedly than what Anthony Joshua did. Again, it's debatable, right? And then lastly, he puts an end to the whole saga with Derek Chisora by brutal knockout, where he was waiting for it all fight. He didn't care about winning the rounds. He knew he was going to land it at some point. He wanted to knock him out, not beat him on points. So again, read into that fight however you want. Fact is, Dillon White knocked him out and become only the second person in history after David Haye to actually put Derek Chisora on his backside out for the count. Okay, so who has a better resume than Dillon White? Let's throw in there as well as not only those three, but Robert Helenius. Say what you like, Robert Helenius had only lost one fight before, where in a fight where he was winning against heavyweight boxing, he got clipped by Johan Duhaupas. I'm pretty sure if you rematch Helenius and Duhaupas, Helenius will wipe the floor with him. Okay, and Helenius was once tipped to be the next Vladimir Klitschko. Don't forget that one. Okay, so outside of Dillon White, some people are throwing a few names around there who they would prefer Anthony Joshua to fight. With their thought process being, and listen, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I respect your opinion, of course I do. But yes, okay, I am a Dillon White fanboy. Okay, you all guys know that. But in this video, I'm going to try and be very, very neutral as I possibly can. It's going to be difficult, okay, but I'm going to try, all right? So, when I spoke with Dillian Whyte last week on this channel for, just under an hour, I had him on the channel here, so go check that video out. In fact, I'll pop it up at the end of this video, so you guys can just give it a click and give it a watch. And we discussed all this kind of thing anyway. So, Dillon White versus Anthony Joshua. A lot of people saying, but we've already seen that fight. Anthony Joshua knocked him out, okay? So, listen, fair point, okay? But that was 4 years ago, and for the British title. 4 years ago, okay? Let me say again, 4 years ago. Long time ago. Both these guys were prospects at the time, and Dillon White has clawed and scratched and bitten and battered everybody since then to get back up. Currently, Dillon Whyte is ranked number 1 by the WBC, number 1 by the WBO. He's a WBC Silver champion and number 4 by the WBA. And the only reason he's number 4 is because they can't move the people out above him because they've all been promised regular WBA world title shots. Okay, so Dillon White, it's 1-1 between him and Anthony Joshua. You have to remember that. In their minds, it's 1-1. That's Dillon Whyte and Anthony Joshua. It's 1-1. They need to unbalance the scorecard in their own minds. Why? Because Dillon Whyte defeated and dropped Anthony Joshua in the amateurs. That was Dillon Whyte's amateur debut. He dropped Anthony Joshua to the floor and beat him on points. Okay. Then in the rematch, Anthony Joshua defeated him by a 7th round stoppage. So in their mind, it's 1-1. So this fight's going to have to happen at some point. Also, bear in mind, while we're on Dillon White, is the fact that his last 3 fights, he's been a headliner and sold out. All 3 of them. 2 of them were pay-per-view. Let's not forget that one. Okay, so let's look at who else. Because people say, but we've already seen that fight. Why do we want to see it again? As I said 4 years ago, and Dillon White is due for a world title fight. Deontay Wilder isn't going to give him that world title fight. So what's he supposed to do? Okay? Anyway, so let's look at the other options for Anthony Joshua. You tell me if any of these guys are more worthy than Dillon White. Okay? And yes, I do understand and I do get it with when people say, but we want to see somebody new. Okay? As I said, that was 4 years ago, so it's not exactly last fight, is it? And a quick rematch. Rematches happen all the time. Fraser, Ali, Lewis, Holyfield, Bo. It goes on. Okay? So rematches are part of the sport. Just because you lose, that doesn't mean, oh, well, you've had your opportunity, you're never getting one again. It doesn't work that way, and it shouldn't work that way either. So let's look at the other options. A lot of people are talking about big baby Jarrell Miller. So straight away, let's say that fight happens. We've already been told it's not going to happen at Wembley, April 13th. We've already been told that is not going to happen. It's going to be Anthony Joshua in New York against big baby Jarrell Miller. Okay, so there's that one. So right away, if you want to watch Joshua at Wembley, that ain't going to happen if you're going to fight big baby Jarrell Miller. But listen, he's world champion and he should travel. Okay, I'm not trying to keep him in the UK, not at all. He should travel. But against big baby Jarrell Miller, is Jarrell Miller a more worthy opponent than Dillon Whyte? I've already given you Dillon Whyte's resume recently. Let's look at big baby Jarrell Miller's. Thomas Adamek, way over the hill, former cruiserweight, Polish. He defeated him. Johan Duapa defeated him. Duapa has been beaten on a few occasions. Okay? And he defeated Bogdan Dinu last time out. Who was Bogdan Dinu? You probably never heard of him before Jarrell Miller fought him, right? He's from Romania. He was undefeated, of course. But the fight before then, he was supposed to take on Tom Little. So that should tell you all you need to know about Bogdan Dinu. And he's also fought Gerald Washington. Again, listen, Gerald Washington was a former football player, not a boxer. Okay, and he had 1 loss on his record, yes, to Deontay Wilder. Yes, he gave Deontay Wilder a bit of work, but ultimately he got stopped prematurely for sure, because he was throwing the windmills at Gerald Washington, which is where the windmill thing come from, and wasn't touching him, but the referee stepped in anyway. But either way, okay, Gerald Washington is another win for big baby Jarrell Miller. Mariusz Wach, big, tall, tough Polish guy, but not exactly the biggest puncher in the world, not exactly the most agile either, okay? But he did defeat Mariusz Wach. So he doesn't have a bad resume, but is it better than Dillon Whyte? Is his resume more worthy of a world title fight over Dillon Whyte? I would say no. Okay, I'm not saying that Jarrell Miller doesn't deserve a title shot. Of course he does. He's got the talk, he's got the gift of the gab, and his fighting style will give something to Joshua that he probably haven't had before, which is somebody just keep on coming forward and eating up the shots. But we all know how that fight's probably going to go at some point, right? So again, listen, big baby Jarrell Miller, yes, it's a new name, I get it. So who else is there? A lot of people saying King Kong, Luis Ortiz, even Joshua said this one. But let's look at his. Before he fought Deontay Wilder, Daniel Martz. Really? A journeyman. Before then, he fought Dave Allen, a prospect, Dave Allen, by the way, and was 1 second away from going into the final round. Before then, he went the distance with Malik Scott. Malik Scott, a guy who Derek Chisora knocked clean out. A guy who Deontay Wilder hit on the gloves, and he went down like he'd been shot in the head. So he fights Deontay Wilder, and what happens? Round number 7. Yeah. Anywhere else in the world, and had it not been on American soil with Deontay Wilder, the referee probably would have stopped the fight, and Luis Ortiz would have won. I get that point. Okay, round number 7, and the beginning of round number 8, the referee helps Deontay Wilder and the medical team as well as to buy him a few valuable more seconds. But ultimately, officially, and it is how it is, Deontay Wilder beat him by knockout. What's he done since? He beat Razvan Kajanu. We only know about him because of Joseph Parker. And who else? Travis Kaufman. Again, almost went the distance, went to the final round with Travis Kaufman, by the way. So Luis Ortiz deserves more of a title shot than Dillian Whyte? Are you sure about that? Last 3 fights, he's got a loss on there. And one of them was a journeyman, who Nathan Gorman just recently beat. Do you really believe that Luis Ortiz is more deserving than Dillian Whyte? Are you sure about that? Listen, it's an interesting fight. Of course, I'd watch it, you'd watch it. But we're going on the who deserves it more. Do you believe that Luis Ortiz deserves it more than Dillon White? Do you believe Luis Ortiz deserves it more than Jarrell Miller? There's that one. So who else could we possibly have a look at? Okay, bearing in mind, pay-per-view, especially if it's at Wembley, all right? So pay-per-view for us here in the UK. We could have a look at, say, Zhilei Zhang, very, very popular Chinese fighter. If Joshua was to fight him, it should be in China to maximize the numbers. Believe me, it would do crazy numbers. It will blow your mind. Okay, same with Fujimoto as well as in Japan. Again, crazy, crazy numbers. In China and Japan, these guys are super, super popular. And not only that, they love their boxing over there. So for me, if Joshua's going to fight either of these guys, you need to get over to their country and do it to really maximize your revenue. But again, would you, the boxing fan, want to see Anthony Joshua versus Fujimoto or Zhilei Zhang? Because these are the other options that he's got. The other ones could be Adam Kownacki, but again, Adam Kownacki can be taken on Gerald Washington at the end of this month on the Keith Thurman and Lopez undercard. Adam Kownacki, Polish-American, undefeated, ranked number 6 in the IBF. He's not ranked anywhere else on the other sanctioning bodies for Anthony Joshua. He is ranked quite highly, number 8 on WBC, but obviously Anthony Joshua's not WBC. But Adam Kownacki, interesting one. He has fought and defeated Arthur Spilker, Charles Martin, and you would probably favour him to beat Gerald Washington next. But is that a better resume than Dillian Whyte? Would you be interested in watching that fight? Bryant Jennings or Oscar Rivas. These two guys will be fighting in about a week or two's time. So again, it's probably a bit early for these two to have their fight and then go in with Anthony Joshua. But again, would you be interested in watching Anthony Joshua take on Bryant Jennings or Oscar Rivas? Would you be interested? Because if not, outside of that, you're kind of left with not a lot. You got Kubrat Pulev. Kubrat Pulev has a history of only willing to fight Joshua when he is forced to because of the mandatory. Okay, there's history for this one. And when he did get the fight, he pulled out with an injury. I'm not saying the injury wasn't legit, but he still pulled out of it. Okay, so Kubrat Pulev. A lot of people were hating on that fight when it was first announced. Me, it's a dangerous fight for Joshua. But anyway, would you be interested in that one? Would you be interested in a Tom Swartz from Germany? Tyron Sponge? Otto Wallin from Sweden? All undefeated guys. But would you be interested and be excited about Anthony Joshua fighting any of them guys? Unless it was forced upon him as a voluntary? You'd be kicking off. Of course you would be kicking off. Even though all these guys are undefeated and very good fighters, but they do have padded resumes, that's for sure. Ajit Cabello, the European heavyweight champion, the only name on his record is going the distance with Derek Chisora. But still, not the most active fighter in the world. Is he avoided? Potentially. Ajit Cabello is a very good fighter, but listen, would you really want to see Joshua versus Ajit Cabello? What about Anthony Joshua versus Hughie Fury? Would you be interested in that one? Probably not at this point. Right? But outside of that, there isn't too much. You could say Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter's had 2 fights at heavyweight, defeated Martin Bakole, again, undefeated British prospect. Did it in great fashion. Defeated Alexander Ustinov. Again, Ustinov at the tail end of his career. And yes, it's an excellent scalp for Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter is, of course, part of the Matchroom team now. So that would be an in-house fight now. He's an American. He has 1 defeat on his record to Alexander Usyk. Again, Alexander Usyk. you could probably argue that's too early for Usyk, right? He needs to dip his toe in the water at heavyweight before he goes after any of the big guys. To be fair and real about it, right? Who else? Junior Farr? He's ranked number 10 by the WBO from New Zealand. He's undefeated. But again, would you really want to see that one at this point? There isn't really anybody else. What do you want? A Derek Chisora? Even though he just lost? Filip Herjavec? He's only 7-0. Looking pretty good, no doubt. Sergey Kuzmin, of course, he's looking pretty good as well. But would you want to see Anthony Joshua take him on? All these guys over Dillian Whyte. Listen, it's just my opinion. You're entitled to your opinion, but for me, nobody in the heavyweight division right now deserves Anthony Joshua more than Dillon White. Not just Anthony Joshua, I'm talking world title fight, but as we know, the other world title is being held hostage. Okay? And Dillon White's never ever going to get that WBC belt. It just isn't going to happen. Wilder, it just refuses to fight him point blank. Even sent him text messages saying he ain't going to do it. So, outside of Dillon White, who next? Probably the next best resume will be Jarrell Miller. Yeah. Then the next one after that is probably Luis Ortiz or potentially a rematch with Joseph Parker. But again, would you want to see that one this early? Probably not. Joe Joyce? Listen, there's quite a few options, but are any of those guys more deserving than Dillon White? And you see, this is what I'm saying. When you say, but we've already seen it. Okay, fine, you've already seen it. 4 years ago. A lot can happen in 4 years. Anyway, that's my thoughts. You let me know yours. Drop them below. Click the thumbs up on this video. And, of course, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.